Hey
Hey, hey.
Ezekiel, how's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm good. Excited to have you on. Yeah, let's just start with a bit about what you do, what business you run, background. Let's get it.
Cool. So, my background is in entrepreneurship. I've done that for about 10 years. I actually took the more corporate route, went into corporate sales, trained door to door all the way into a corporate trainer position. Then, after that, I hopped out, tried a couple of agency things, and now I'm working on more of a tech company that's a business development hybrid. So, it's a pretty fun process. Little outside of the agency space on the side over here, if you will, but definitely analyzing kind of your industry and seeing where the holdups are for you guys. So we're a remote business development company right now. So
Yeah, that's nice. When did you get started?
so that we started about 6 months ago after shutting down one of our other agencies. Basically, what it came down to is I don't think there was enough vision in the business model and enough team support to actually continue that on. So we took all that money, dumped it into the software we're building now, which essentially analyzes agencies and different digital B2B companies. And we're doing this in other industries as well. And we're just basically taking on case studies. It's not quite as fun because we don't get to brag about being at like 100K, but we're looking at, hey, maybe in 2 years we'll brag about being a multi-billion-dollar company. So that would be like the coolest thing to ever happen. But at the moment, at least making it a couple million will be good. But right now, we're just getting the data and kind of more in the team R&D, research and development on the computer, getting on with clients. It's a fun time.
Yeah, you mentioned that you wanted to go through like some appointment setting stuff that's been working for you guys.
Yeah, so actually, I brought some stuff because my main background, I've done a ton of sales stuff. Business development is like 90% sales. So, what I wanted to do for your audience, because I know it's a majority agencies, if I'm not mistaken, right? Really just
Yeah.
help you guys out with a process we built. I got it out on a Google Sheet. This process is basically taking all the data from the tons of content that's out there, the personal experience I have in direct to consumer sales and my team from the last 3 years, plugged it into 5 steps that pretty much any appointment setting conversation you should have. I really encourage a lot of people to try their best. Like, you guys definitely need to try your best at actually setting the appointments. I think a lot of this industry wants to automate everything immediately. And a lot of what you lose in automating appointments early on in the business is something that I think is invaluable, which is you get pitch data, right? You get to practice actually pitching what you're doing, and it helps you craft your offer faster. So even inside of, our incubator, which we're building the software for, we encourage our private clients to like, hey guys, set the appointments for the first couple of months. Whether you have a team and it's totally automated, I still recommend you go set a few appointments yourself because it really helps you get your lingo down and craft that offer properly. So I can actually pull that up if you'll give me a couple seconds here to get in my tabs. If you want to ask a couple other questions or do anything like that in the meantime,
Yeah, I
just
mean, I think the
guide me through what you
unscalable,
want.
yeah, the unscalable stuff is like it's usually more effective than just automating it completely, and that's also what Alex Hormozy is always going on about. Just do
Yo.
the unscalable when you can. Yeah, I was curious, like, if you had any pieces of advice on like a high level when you were starting out, or something you would tell yourself, to speed up.
So in your space, which I love this space, I've been here for 3 years now, and I will tell you, here's the key to the game: stop rushing. Everybody in this space wants to make $100,000 next month. So, just coming from my personal background, right? It's super early in the morning here. I'm not sure if you can see it on my face, but I get started early every day. But that was a habit that started a long time ago. And the reason why I tell people to stop rushing is because when I actually got started in entrepreneurship, agencies weren't even that cool. This was like 10 years ago. I was about 13 years old, and I basically woke up and I'm like, I'm going to start a business. And I tried everything. I would sell things on Facebook Marketplace. I was doing magic tricks. I actually have a deck of cards here right now just to remind me like where I come from, right? Knocking doors, doing a ton of stuff. Here's the thing. Up until last year, there was a nice little spike. We had a good like 30K agency running. And then this year we have like a real plan for the next 5, 10 years. Did anything happen? I think so many people in this space, if they could just look at the pure genius that they have and just pause for a second and be like, real genius takes time. Copy paste takes 6 months, right? If your goal is to make money, you got to figure out how long you want to make money first. Because a lot of people in this space, they think, oh, I just need to make $100,000 a month. As fast as you made that $100,000 a month, you got to realize that's as fast as it will go away. Now, if your goal is just to buy a car and then drive off in it, great. You can enjoy the car, but I got real news for you from personal experience being on the little bit older end for this space, right? It's going to go away, right? What are you going to do when you're 35? Are you still going to be trying to run a 100K agency, right? So I really encourage people in the space because I feel that it's filled with young geniuses and really geniuses all across the board, even from the coach to the agency, to like actually pause for a second. What do you actually want? And why do you need to get to that revenue point so fast? For me, I personally want to build like a world changing type company, and it may take me years and years and years and years and years. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm fine waiting. It's totally okay. Right now, we don't have to be the 250K agency to sell a coaching program. I don't sell coaching. Personally, I don't believe in it quite as much as actually going and grabbing a mentor one on one. But that being said, my biggest piece of advice is really decide what you want to make. And if it's a big goal, expect to wait for a little while and be okay with that. There's nothing wrong with taking a couple of years to build something sustainable versus just copy pasting the latest trend and selling it till you get 100K. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think people are always talking about, oh yeah, I think we're gonna hit this goal. I want to hit this goal in this time frame, and I don't know where I saw this, but it was saying like it's gonna end up taking like 2 to 3 times longer. And even if you're
Mm-hmm.
aware that that's gonna happen, it still happens. I'm not. I think it's sort of because of the paradigm shift where you get the dopamine of, oh, I basically you get the dopamine as if you've achieved that goal by telling other people about it.
Exactly. And I mean, for me personally, I'll tell you, guys, I'm still in the mud. I'm in the startup. I decided to go completely reverse 180 instead of enjoying the money, just pour it all into this and say, hey, you know what? Let's budget again. Let's be extremely low on expenses. Let's just work and work and work and work and work and work. Because if I could tell anybody anything, I'd tell them something that actually a mentor told me 5 years ago, and it really, really helped me. This was in door to door sales. That is even crazier of an environment than the agency space. And he basically said, hey, stop trying to fall in love with making money and fall in love with the process of making money. Because a lot of people, I think they just forget. I mean, dude, your goal is to make a lot of money. You're going to be doing this for a while. And if you're a CEO of a thriving company that you don't even have to be in, you're still going to have to be thinking. You're still going to have to be strategizing. There's still going to be a mental tax for running something like that. So if you can start embracing that process and being just a little bit more patient, I think that every agency entrepreneur should be running somewhere between a $5 and $10 million company, whether they stay in the agency space or take that knowledge and move over into the tech space by the time they're in the game for 5 or 10 years. But at the moment, I think so many people are worried about 3 to 6 months with these coaching programs that they forget, like, dude, there's at least 40 years of life that you're going to live after this space. Like, what are you going to do with that? How are you going to change the world? How are you going to bring that genius to life? That's what I talk about to my team all the time, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Super, super interesting. Should we dive into the appointment setting?
Yeah, I got the little doc pulled up and everything. I got a Google document for you guys done. Not sure how to share my screen. This is my first time on your podcast using this software. So you just
I
let me know.
think in the bottom, yeah, on the bottom, there's like a button which says share next to leave.
Okay. Guys, get ready for tabception. I know if any of you guys in the agency space know, you have 25 different tabs open. All right, I'm going to go to my screen right here. All right. Guys, just kick back. This is really going to be the corporate trainer coming out a little bit, and I hope to make this as valuable as possible. And I can hand this to you, Paulo, as well. I'll make another document besides our team doc that
For
you
sure.
can actually just give away. I mean, I'm just big on hey giveaways. Reason why I don't mind giving away as much coaching as possible, just to be super clear, Guys, we're building a business development program for you in the agency space. So we are not going to be your coaching buddies who are like, hey, you can do it mindset, wake up 25 times a day. We're actually building a software for companies under 2 million where you'll be able to log in, say, hey, I want to make 50K a month. You're going to take a business audit. It's going to go over all your skills. It's going to go over the resources you have available to you, connections, different stuff like that. Take about a week. Then it's going to tell you, hey, it'll take you approximately 12 months to hit this 50K a month goal. And what we do to make it a little bit shorter is we'll have a DeFi team come in, build everything according to that goal that you set in the software. Then from there, you're getting walked through with a consultant. So it's going to be a lot more than a coaching program, more just like our team was kind of sitting down playing with the idea of what if we went into most industries and just sold the implementation, not the coaching program. So when you guys watch me do any kind of trainings, just know I want to give it away. It's not going to cost you anything. So here you go. This is the 5 steps of conversation. This is pretty much based on all the data we've observed in your marketplace and the data that we have from actually doing it for 3 years, what we've kind of gotten down to. I think a majority of people in this space just need to realize it doesn't really matter the system that you actually go by. It matters how you handle the conversation. Okay, there's like 20 different systems I could name off right now, from cold calling, from scraping, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, LinkedIn, even Discord outreach. There's things that we've done on Snapchat of all places. There's WhatsApp outreach. There's a million different ways that you can actually outreach to somebody. There's a lot of ways to automate it. But what it's going to come down to is how you handle that conversation. So whether you have an AI do this or you do this, it's still going to hold the same relevance. So the first step is really your opening approach. Now, what we tell people to do is to design your opening approach or messages according to the niche and the outreach system, platform, or channel you are using. So for this example, let's just kind of use our imagination here. We're going to be a website agency, right? If I'm looking for leads for a website agency, I'm probably going to use this technique by going to Facebook pages, looking to see, hey, do they have a website on that Facebook page? And from there, use some kind of opener around, hey, I noticed that you didn't have a Facebook page, I noticed you didn't have a website on your Facebook page. Do you guys have it, right? And then you can go into like send it over if you're offering chatbots, that type of stuff. But really, you want to make that approach unique to the platform and really the niche you're in. A lot of different companies in different niches actually favor different platforms. And I think that's something to kind of take away. Depending on your niche, you got to realize there is a favorite platform. It could even be SMS or cold calls, right? There's no best outreach system. It's the best outreach system for that niche. So bring value and be unassuming during this time. Really, at the end of the day, you got to realize no matter what you do, and take it from a guy who literally spent 3 years just literally knocking on doors to get leads and actually get sales. I didn't have the luxury of like sitting on a computer and actually putting together an AI system for a while. And that was me going through my trenches, right? My 10K months, just trying to figure out how to actually sell. So that being said, when it comes down to it, you need to actually bring some form of value to them, or at minimum, be unassuming. There's too many people in this space who throw their offer on an opener message, automate 5,000, emails or SMS or DMs, and what ends up happening with those people is, unfortunately, they start complaining to their coach or consultant, whoever, or just themselves, that I'm not getting any appointments, but I'm automating 5,000. Guys, it really actually wouldn't matter the number that you send, right? To a degree, you're going to have to send somewhere between 1 to 300 per day. Sorry for the people who that feels like a high number, but I'm sorry. I have a guy who, as I was training him, he was able to do 500 in like 4 hours on various accounts. So at the end of the day, like, we're a big fan of, hey, do big numbers, but don't automate insane numbers and then complain when all you're doing is sending the offer you have. It's like taking away, right? The way we talk to people about outreach numbers is sometimes you got to be a little bit patient. It's more like building a building. You keep sending out those messages. Eventually people are going to start responding. But if you're just flinging trash by basically putting your offer on something, don't expect a result no matter what system you're using. So you should personalize your approach according to your prospect type, niche market, and the problem your offer solves. As in the website example, that's kind of what we went over. Find unique ways to start conversations that make it feel exclusive to the prospect, and be natural when starting conversations. This is something that just kind of comes from being in corporate and training sales managers. Guys, exclusivity is how you sell. Okay. Ferrari only sells because they're exclusive. If Ferrari let everybody buy a Ferrari, nobody would buy a Ferrari. So you need to find a way to make that as exclusive as possible, whatever it is you're selling, right? A lot of people get scared because of limitation, is really what they're thinking about, where they say, hey, I only help 3 people a month. They're like, I can't just sell 3 in a month. Well, you're not even selling one. So selling 3 in a month would be pretty good for you to start. And actually being genuine and holding that threshold. For example, for private clients, I only take on 2. I'm so serious about that. Every single month, I only take on 2. I tell the third guy no, because I know that that builds the exclusivity for when I outreach to the next company or when the next referral comes through and sits down with me to see what we could do from what we're doing over here. So, last thing, when opening your conversation, keep in mind this approach may require more than one message or opening line depending on the outreach type and method you are using. I think a lot of people forget this. Ignore the small typos here. I put this together yesterday for you guys, but a lot of people forget the opening sequence is what you're talking about. It's not an opener. I think for a lot of DM appointment setters, or if you guys are doing SMS, you need to remember that your opening sequence could be 2 or 3 messages. If you guys are doing cold calls, the first line is not going to sell them. Okay, you need to spend the first 15 seconds of that call really actually allowing that person to be invested in what you're saying. At that point, the next part is captivating. This is where your goal during this phase is to gain trust quickly, bring relevance to your opener, continue to bring value to your prospect, make it so they're getting something out of this, ask intelligent questions, listen during this time to your prospect, build rapport when necessary, and do your best to quickly get out of this phase if the prospect is the no BS type. You may also need to briefly pitch during this time and ask permission before qualifying your prospect. This not only shows respect, but also provides a convenient temperature check for you to see how invested in what you're saying your prospect is currently. Guys, when you're a startup in starting out in business, like this is for the guys that are below 10K per month. You've been doing this for 5 months. Number one, if you'll just apply what I said earlier, get patient. Take it from a guy who's actually been at this for 10 years. Anyone is welcome to read my resume. Reach out to me. I'll send it to you. It's been 10 years. Okay. I'm just now succeeding. And that's not because I took it slow. It's because I had a very big vision and had to do a lot of stuff behind that. So no matter how big your vision is, get patient. Wait a couple years. For goodness sake, what are you going to spend $100,000 on at 17? Right? Really, really slow down and be present. Now, when you're in this place, you've got to realize that you are new. They just started talking to you. You have zero value built up with them. A lot of you guys don't even have content on your accounts or account history. Okay. So you need to be captivating. That's the only way that you're going to get that appointment. During this time, gaining trust is your top priority, right? Some people are literally going to be this guy. They don't want to just sit and go back and forth and talk about the weather. They also don't want to talk about your offer. So your goal during this time needs to be actually going and making it worth their time. Here's an easy way to do that. If you're selling websites, do the first 3 of them for free. I'm sorry, not everybody has to pay you if you have no experience. It's just like a job. You wouldn't walk into a job and say, hey, pay me a full $100,000 a year salary for something I've never done, right? Go and offer some free websites to these guys, because these guys, believe it or not, the no BS type, they've been through the ringer enough to have genuine experience. And with genuine experience also comes genuine connections. And that's something where they can refer you to people who will buy. So just keep that in mind, right? When you're captivating, you'll move through that. Once you've got that trust, it's time to qualify them. Guys, the name of the game is not get a million appointments on a calendar. It's to get 5 appointments that will buy on a calendar. Okay. I see this in this space a lot. There's a lot of appointment setting offers where their version of results is to send screenshots of a Calendly with 100 different calls on it. Here, I got some really good news for you. Your calendar does not dictate your bank account. Okay. Your calendar needs to be filled with people that can actually buy what you're talking about and actually work with you. Okay. That being said, don't fall prey to the marketplace when there are 100 calls on a calendar on a story. That guy may have never qualified a single lead or done any of this stuff and is just going to hop onto a bunch of no-shows and people with no money. If I want to book out 100 calls tomorrow, I can go do that. I'll launch an AI that does a couple of these things and I'll be good. I'll totally skip qualifying though, because if I wanted 100 calls, I would just want the screenshot so I can hopefully, with my content, maybe sell a couple of people. So here's the thing: when it comes down to qualifying, you need to discover if they're a good fit for your offer. You will pitch your offer during this time, but ultimately want to make it about them. Acknowledge what they are saying and make sure they know you are human. Be personable. Reframe questions when necessary to make sure you collect accurate information. Remember, you're booking an appointment, not selling, so keep it relevant and brief during this time. A lot of the time, this is a big thing I would touch on. Whether you're building an AI to do this for you or whether you're doing it, you still have to be personable. And this is something that I think a lot of people skip, right? You copy paste the same script. It's like, okay, you sound more like a robot when you're doing those copy paste scripts, even if you're doing it manually, than you do as an actual robot. Because remember, ChatGPT, if you're building your AIs right, is answering that question. So it's going to be personalized a little bit at least to that. And if you're doing this manually, quit copy pasting everything. Like, this is not a game of copy paste. This is a game of people. So make sure you remember you're talking to people, because people are who are going to buy from you. The last thing here, recap your offer and convo. This is something I see skipped a lot. And if you could take anything away from this podcast that Paulo's been so gracious to have me on, I really appreciate you, brother, for doing this. But during this phase in the conversation, your goal is to put a bow on the conversation and remind them why you can help them. You may need to repitch your offer, answer any questions they have. Your goal ultimately is that before the call, they know what's going on and why you can help them. This is not about you, it's about them. Guys, this is about your prospect. This is about how you can help them. This is not about you making $100,000 this month. This is not about the Ferrari. This is not about the, hey, I get to brag to my friends and family that I'm running a business. If you want to run a business, I take it from a guy who's actually doing it and talked to a lot of the brightest CEOs around. I actually genuinely have talked to a couple of billionaires too. And the one thing that I will tell you is always consistent. They have figured out that the term CEO is actually the ultimate janitor. You are not Bill Gates. You are not here to flex. This is not a rock star game. If you actually want to run a business, stop trying to be a rock star. If you want to be a rock star, come talk to me about my sales department. We'll turn you into somebody making 20, 30, 40, 50K a month in the next year or so for no matter what. Or I'll refer you to somebody who can do it if I can't. But at the end of the day, if you want to run a business, expect to be a janitor. And remember, your clients, your people, your employees, everybody, it's about them, not you. Okay?
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing outreach, you need to remember that. So make sure that that prospect has the proper expectations before the call. And then during this phase, you need to provide enough urgency. We're skipping over here to number 5. During this phase, you need to provide enough urgency for them to book. Don't be desperate, and remember not to let them take control of the conversation. Use the booking sandwich and remember to do all the necessary follow-up. Make sure they book and show up to the call. Booking the prospect
What's
includes making sure they show up. What's up, Paulo? Sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, what's the booking sandwich?
We'll dive into that right now, actually. So the booking sandwich, guys, is something that we've just kind of referred to. It's a little bit of a slang, but essentially what it is you ask permission to book, you send the link, and then you send a CTA reminding them why it's important to book. We've seen a lot of success doing this. So number 1, don't just send a link. Okay, when somebody's like, yeah, sure, I'll book a call. Perfect. Can I send the link over? What that allows them to do is rationalize that a link is coming. Then the link goes so they know, hey, I can click on this. And the last thing that you do for a CTA, a call to action, is to say, hey, can you send a screenshot over once you book so I can just verify it in my calendar and make sure that I put it in another system? Whatever you want to say. At the end of the day, you need to give them a reason why they need to tell you they booked, because not only does that allow you to know they booked, besides the fact you're going to get all the calendar automations and everything that goes through, but it's also going to remind them that they have a call at this time. And we've seen more often than not people actually show at a higher ratio just doing those 3 steps at the end. Ask to send the link, and then make sure they know the time. Even if you're doing this live on a phone call, you're going to want to text that link over to them, make sure they fill it out, and then say, hey, just to get confirmation you booked that, right? End of the day, no matter what appointment setting system you're using, that booking sandwich is really, really going to help out, because a lot of people will send a link, they'll forget about the call. I've missed a couple of calls, and I hate to say it, right? If I'm going to hop on a call, I plan on hearing somebody out, actually seeing what's going and showing up. But a couple of times I've been super busy and actually generally missed it, right? And we'll go into that later, but people aren't just ghosting you. A lot of people are actually busy and you just need to talk to them like a human and not get grumpy that they no showed. But if you do want that first show, the booking sandwich is going to be the best way to do it. And the other thing I just add to this section is you guys remember that booking the prospect includes making sure that they show up. Okay, everything that you got to do. So you don't want to book a lead to where you get to the part of the conversation where they do a link and you kind of like felt the pressure, you were being a little bit rude during that conversation, because at the end of the day, that person is not going to show up and all your effort is just going to go down the drain. And another thing that often we've seen happen that kind of is an indicator of that is at the end of the conversation, when it comes to the link, when it comes to them doing something, they try to take the control of the conversation or they're a little bit rude. That should reflect more on that you did the other four steps wrong than them just being a rude person. Because at the end of the day, guys, if you can't add enough value to their life in a conversation to make them show up and they don't want to fill out a link for a calendar call, how on earth do you think that person is going to fill out a Stripe link for your services? You need to make this valuable. And one of the ways you got to do it is don't let them take control at the end, right? Just be cordial, be nice, and then get it on the calendar. But Paul, unless you have any other questions that I can expand on for your audience, that'd basically be the 5 steps of how to book a really good appointment and sell them as the next step.
Yeah, I'd be interested. Would you be able to? Because I feel like most people, what they have trouble with is getting the first reply. Because I feel like that is the main. Once you've got them in, then from there, you've already got them in your messages. You can continue the conversation. I mean, that's a whole nother part of the process. But it'd be interesting to maybe see if we could. I mean, we could do it now, or like create some sort of examples or um, angles that you would
So
go for.
personally, I haven't been doing outreach quite as much. I'll try to pull some stuff up and put it in here. But I have a guy on my team who right now is getting like a 60 to 80% reply rate day over day. His average is 70. We're looking at all his KPIs. He's doing freaking phenomenal with a hybrid system between Facebook and WhatsApp. And he's like king of openers. He's on my team. He's our STL in training, sales team lead. Fire dude, fire dude. I'll definitely have a couple of his screenshots added to this. But I guess just to kind of really recap this part, guys, when you are opening a conversation, you are sending a message to a stranger. You are not going to talk about your offer. Rule number one, do not talk about your offer. And I don't mean like at all. I mean like talk about it, right? You can mention it in your opener. Hey, I do websites and I'm XYZ, da da da. My reason for reaching out. Here's the thing, the best appointment setting systems are more based off of starting a conversation as the opener and then touching on the offer and captivating. And then when you recap, possibly going over your offer. But I will tell you something about an opener. If you guys are struggling to get replies, you're probably asking. That's the thing. Don't ask. Do not ask if they want your offer. Ask if they would like to continue the conversation. Okay? So if you're gonna present your offer, super easy framework, and actually I'll mess up my sheet here and we'll add this on a page too. But the first thing is your intro. Okay? This is one message. This is opening message. Don't mind me, I don't get paid to spell, I get paid to think. So first off, you got your opening message right here. This is going to apply more to DM appointments, less to cold calls. I can touch on that later. But you can have an intro, small offer. Okay, guys, like one sentence. Don't make this any more than that. And here's something else I'll tell you guys, just a little side thing. If you feel the need to write a paragraph about your offer, you don't have a clean enough offer to ask for a sale. Okay? You should know your offer so well that you can say it in one sentence. Okay? It should basically be your company mission statement. So, really, really make sure you know your offer and you're clear on it before you do it. If I'm selling a website, it shouldn't take me 12 years to come up with a reason for that. It should be something like, hey, I wanted to provide small businesses with a better online presence, so I'm building websites. Super easy. Then the last thing is to actually ask to continue the conversation. Okay? And I'm saying dot dot dot. This is the most important thing I think I could give somebody struggling with openers is your intro can be as simple as, hey, it's Ezekiel here. I wanted to make websites for small businesses because I noticed you guys were overwhelmed on time and didn't really have enough time to pay attention to the web presence, but I know I can bring you a few more clients. Can we continue this conversation? That's an opener that will actually work. You'll generate some responses because far too many people, and I'm going to take this away. I'll put this in the document for you guys here in a little bit. The people that basically do this, blah, 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 my offer, da, 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 me, ga, 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 and I got this, that, and the other thing, and I have 25 different services, and before you know it, it's off the edge of the screen, and nobody cares. Okay? You have to make this worth their time. That is the point of an opener. It is to make sure that it's worth both of your guys' time to continue the conversation. A lot of you guys are getting views because people are actually just notification freaks, right? I'm one of them. I don't like there to be 25 notifications from Facebook Messenger. So sometimes I'll just go open the notification, delete the conversation. You'll never hear from me again. There was no value. A view ultimately just means there was no value and they were clearing it out. So it's not like you, oh my gosh, I'm getting views or whatever, right? End of the day, the reply is going to come from you were very straightforward, you're very clean in your opener, you introduced yourself so they at least know who you are and kind of why you're there. And then you asked if they would like to continue. You didn't ask for their business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've actually got it's super interesting. So many different things to talk about, but um, I'm curious about like when feel like a lot of people, and obviously everyone's experienced this if you're doing outbound appointment setting, where leads, you might have sent them a calendar link, they might have replied to some of your convo, but then they just sort of ghost you. So how do you go about following up with ghosted leads? And then afterwards, maybe how do you go about following up with people once they booked in to make sure they actually show up?
Okay. So this is going to be important. So I have a kind of a two-part answer for how do you follow up with ghosted leads. So here's the two reasons why most people ghost you. Number one, they never intended to work with you. Number two, they're actually busy. So if they never intended to work with you, you'll know by doing what I'm about to tell you. And if they are actually busy, you'll be able to save it. We have a little rule in our sales department. And keep in mind, that's where a lot of my experience comes from, which is the rule. And I'm going to keep using this part of the sheet. We'll go rewrite this stuff here. The rule of 12. Actually, you know what? There's one guy who's going to watch this video and he's going to be like, dude, why don't you just scroll down and use another sheet so you can leave it on there and we'll go back later. And you know what? I'm going to make that guy happy today. So there we go. That being said, the rule of 12 is something that we have in our sales departments. And it basically means until you followed up 12 times, you cannot call that a dead lead. Now, that's an important thing for a lot of people because a lot of people say, oh, he's not replying to me after 2 messages. So really the question shouldn't be, what should I do about somebody ghosting me? It should be, how can I organically reach out to them 12 times so it doesn't feel like I'm being rude? Okay. And the first way to do that is, hey, I noticed you filled out the link and booked for said time, but didn't show. Did something come up? And we will fix that for all the grammar Nazis, including myself out here. So this is the important thing that people don't realize. Guys, people don't ghost you 90% of the time. Most of the time, you've got to start realizing that they were actually busy. What happens is people reach out to the person who is actually busy, like the good lead, and they turn them into a ghost, and then they blame the person. First of all, to everybody running a business who may be watching this, whether this gets like 10 views or 10,000 views, guys, the reality is this. You are responsible for everything in the business. So quit blaming your prospect for not showing up to the call and ask yourself why your skills weren't good enough for them to show up to the call and fix that. Because by blaming your prospect, you're immediately telling your prospect, you can take all the blame. If my business fails, it's your fault. Dude, who cares? Who literally cares? That's not even going to bother them. Plus, now they have full control of your life, apparently. You've got to take responsibility for your skill set. So be unassuming is the first thing you got to realize with this. Did something come up is a very nice way to say, hey, I didn't see you. Something might have come up, right? They don't read that. Your next message or your next follow up or your next email can be, I reached out a couple days ago to see something came up, had some time, and wanted to hear back. All right. Now, a lot of people may perceive this, and I would tell you before you've tried this, don't come up with philosophies as to why this or that isn't going to work. That's a dangerous thing in business too. A lot of people like to fantasize about something not working before they try it. Here's the reason why this will work for you. This is the time to be a little bit blunt and look a little bit like that, because if you said had some time, what you're implying is that you had some time. Okay, a way to not look desperate is to say had some time to reach back out, wanted to see what's going on. Try to avoid just checking in whenever you say that, because those words are very, very buzzwordy for a salesperson following up. And wanted to hear back, right? What I've seen with these types of messages a lot of times, for example, right now I'm working with a private client. He's a doctor, trying to get him going. It's a $30,000 deal, right? Pitched him a couple days ago, had to follow up, and basically just sent essentially this. And he responded right away, almost immediately. Okay. Next thing you might want to try, phone call or email, right? If it's written, I'd actually probably avoid written and just do a phone. If you get voicemail, that's going to touch, it's one of the 12, right? And then again, what we've done before, and this is something, is a notification follow up. Okay. These little things are super useful. If you go back in your conversation with that person, read something positive that they said and like that message, it's still going to notify the phone with your name on it. Okay. Go into the Facebook Messenger or, Discord, really whatever, and go like an old message of theirs. It doesn't have to be current. They might have sent it to you a week ago, but that notification is still going to hit their device, and it's going to have your name, which is going to, if you did everything right, bring back that conversation. And then a lot of the times, platforms will allow you to have a bump. Okay. This is something where you essentially bump the message. It resends the same message. On Facebook, I really like this about it. Use that bump from there. Keep in mind, you're doing all this over the course of like a week. You may be doing it over the course of a month. It's the rule of 12. You want to avoid daily outreach once you've gotten to like this point. Okay. Once you're at like number 5, then you want to start moving to 48 to 72 hours apart, just following up. You've got to just make sure that you're reaching out to that lead enough. You can even automate a sequence to do this for you on a couple different platforms. But this ultimately comes down to, if you're expecting them to show up on a call and you feel you did well enough in the first 5 steps, if you were desperate, needy, and did something wrong in the first 5, I can't really help you. But if you did do that stuff correctly, all you're looking for is for the guy that was actually busy, not the guy that doesn't see any value in what you're doing. And if you're a startup who's starting out in business, your response rate in every single ratio is going to be lower than everybody else's, and that's okay. That's fine. Just be okay with that. If you're getting a 5% response rate, you're still getting 5 out of 100 people to respond to you. That's 5 chances to have one of these conversations work out. That is not, oh, I'm only getting 5 because I saw on YouTube that this guy's doing that. Quit listening to all these gurus. I'll tell you, as somebody who's actually been in the trenches of business, I mean, like actually in a corporate office, guys, a lot of these guys only have the experience of quickly getting to 100K per month. They've never had to knock a door. They've never had to have a hard conversation with a manager. They really haven't had anything not work out for them. And I like to call it the pop star effect, right? A lot of these pop stars stay at the maturity level that they started out at, right? So if you got famous at 17, you're kind of acting like a 17-year-old all the way into your 30s, right? So just remember, in real business, right, where you're actually following up, where you're actually texting, where you're actually meeting people at networking events and stuff like that, stuff that I personally think is old business, still falls true. People get busy, especially if you're a marketing agency reaching out to a niche of people who have money are 40, 50, 60 years old, right? They're still doing all that stuff. So they do get busy. Their day does get caught up. They just turn their phone off and hang out with their wife at 7 p.m. They're not ignoring you if they plan to work on you. If you made a good enough impression on them and they just missed an appointment, within about 12 touch points of doing this type of stuff, you'll know. And then after that, you can go on with your life, right? If you're doing this right, you should still be sending, at least for your openers, 1 to 300 per day, every single day, nonstop, all the time. So that should give you approximately, over the course of a week, if you're working 7 days a week, 2,100 other opportunities. At a 5% response rate, you'll have about 100 of those that are going to actually reach back out to you, right? As long as you can track a response rate, you'll have hope. That's all I can say. What else, Paulo, could I kind of go over?
Yeah, super interesting. That's, yeah, super useful. I was curious. So this is something that we do, something that I know people like Alex and Mosey do, and a bunch of other guys. I was just curious, do you guys ever do like GIFs or memes in the follow-ups?
So we have done that before. I think it's pretty good, and it's again, it comes down to what I was saying to earlier, which is just in my experience and like what I've seen and done. The outreach system needs to be done according to the niche. So I'll tell you a couple niches I would not do gifts and memes in. Would not do gifts and memes in the insurance niche. I am not
Yeah.
against it, or the financial niche, right? I'm not, construction. I would also probably not do it. If you're doing agencies, SaaSes, or people that are closer to what we're doing, maybe. But I'll tell you, when it comes down to a meme, the way I look at that is it's still a message conveying you're here. And a lot of the times, something that you might want to try is post the meme on your page and share it to that person, right? It'll allow you to, if you have their number, share it over, do whatever. You don't necessarily have to do it with a meme, do it with some kind of post. I think we're getting into the territory, just so I can preface, right? We're getting in the territory of what I like to call creative outreach that works sometimes, right? Sharing a post, doing a meme. I don't think it's a reliable enough metric, because a meme is something where somebody may find it funny, whereas other people may find it offensive. So just pick and choose when you do it. If you really know the guy pretty well and you've sat down on a call and you're just following up to do a follow-up call, that's when I would do it. If you're doing cold outreach, I would really just make sure that you make good choices and do it in niches that more reliably are going to have that type of humor or enjoy that type of thing.
Yeah. You guys seem like you've got your back end down. I was just curious,
Um,
like, what's the sales process like? Like, or how would you, yeah, how would you structure it for an agency or any other B2B company? What works well?
so the reason we have our back end down is because really at the end of the day, funny enough story, we just totally nosedived an agency at one point and realized that every single B2B company is going to boil down to the data, the back end, and that's literally it. Sales, all the nice fancy techniques, that's a sales department. So here's our sales process. It depends on which offer you work with. So I'll give you our private client process. If you guys aren't doing private clients, I would tell you start doing that right away. And the reason I would
What
tell
do
you
you
that is
mean
because
by private clients? Sorry to cut you off.
so private clients are just people that you bring on one and use all the resources that you have to service them. It's kind of like bringing on a consulting deal, except you're going to offer them all of it in one package. So I'll give you an example. Right now, the Remote Growth Network, we're completely a startup. So I can only take on into our incubator 3 to 5 people maximum each month, and then, service our kind of partnership companies as well. But what I do with that is the reason we only take 3 to 5, we're gathering data that we're also doing all the research. So if we ever go through a coaching program, all we're going to be focused on is looking at how well they're tracking the data in that program. and then putting it back into this software to generate those growth plans I was talking about. But at the end of the day, something that I tell a lot of, startup agency people especially is, guys, if you're doing outreach, if you're trying to get people, get clients, and you've got, somewhat of a base, 5 to 10K month agency, try to put together a limited private client offer so that you can actually sell high ticket. You're going to try selling high ticket with these guys, but a private client is basically your one-on-one client that you put all your energy into for the time that you are not worried about the agency. Now, what does a private client require you to do before I tell a bunch of beginners out there to go do private clients? If you're not experienced enough to take on a private client, don't take on a private client. Okay. But a private client, you can start doing this when you get your back end down well enough to where, like, for example, myself, even though this is a huge operation and we're doing a lot of different things, collecting a lot of different data, if I wanted to, I could just work 4 to 5 hours a day. Okay. Maximum. So I still have, in my opinion, 3 to 5 hours that I can work with somebody and give them all the resources I have. So private client offer, the reason why I would want to use this as an example is because it's a limited package. And I think for your audience, it'll be good to see a sale of a limited package, right? Whether you do it as a private client offer or you limit your agency offer, it's really the same thing. It's going to help with right here, right? Where you want to add that exclusivity in your outreach. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Here's the basics. Our openers are designed to start a convo with someone who is above a certain rev point. So,
And in terms of the price point for this and like the contract as well, like the length of
25
it,
to 30K, 15 to 20 upfront.
and it's just one time and there's no monthly.
So it's monthly in the back. That's what makes it there. So most of our private client offers, when we send a quote out, is going to be 10, 15, or 20K up front, and then 2.5 to 4.5K per month for 6 months with the option to go month to month after that. So it totals out to about 25 to 30K each time.
Gotcha.
Yep. So these are high ticket packages, guys. And really what I'm going to tell you is the value of a private client offer. Like, if you're going to work with me, you're paying for 10 years of experience, being the youngest corporate trainer in the ADT, the top ADT dealership in that industry, which is door to door, which is basically every industry but sales before the internet, right? Paying for somebody who's already successfully run 2 agencies. You're also paying for a guy who's building an entire database of all the coaches and consultants and all those methods to build growth plans that are unique to that business. So that's why it's 25, 30K. There's a lot of value there. And as leveraged as I am in that situation, it's still something I would only take on a couple of people per month for. So that being said, I only have my outreachers outreach a little bit for this because a majority of where I get those is just referrals. People just in the network sending other high value, high net worth people to me. We chat, see if I can help. If I can't, I tell them no. If I can, I tell them yes. And that's important for the sales process. So you got the opener, you book them. Okay, perfect. So we're going to take it there. I think we've talked enough about openers and booking people to really understand that those are the first 2 steps. Now we're going to take it from the show. When they show up, the sales process looks like this, okay? The first thing we do is we spend 15 minutes talking about them. Now, one of my best sales mentors really pointed out to me that the person who's in control of the conversation is not the person talking. It's the person asking questions. And I'd use this podcast as an example. Paulo brought me on. He's asking me questions. We're getting information, right? It's the same thing as a sales call. When you're actually doing this, your goal is to spend 15 minutes talking about them. Spend the first 10 to 15 asking intelligent questions about their business. Have some childlike curiosity and really spend time learning what they're doing. This right now, if you don't have a ton of content, like for example, myself, I'm just now launching the personal brand. I've waited years to launch a personal brand on purpose because I don't want to sell off of my personal brand. I just want to educate and have some fun with it, right? I'm more in the personal development space. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, the first step is spending 15 minutes talking about them. Then is the qualifiers, okay? This is something in your sales call that you need to do. This will save you years of time. If they have money, but they're not somebody you would prefer to work with, tell them no. Tell them no. I think people forget you can say no to anybody. You own the business. Say no to the right people, say no to the wrong people for your business, say yes to the right people for your business. You really have to understand who you're looking for to have the power to do this. And this goes back into productizing and other things we can talk about later. But when you're qualifying, make sure that they fit your customer avatar, fit the bill. And then ask permission. This is something that's huge and has worked really well for us all across the board to pitch. A lot of people don't actually do this. You guys hop on a call, ask a couple qualifier questions, and then pitch. This is what's going to make the difference. By spending 15 minutes talking to them about them, asking permission to pitch, then pitching, that's actually what's going to make the call work. Because at the end of the day, what this does is it eradicates like 90% of objections because they're going to have trust with you on the front end. So really, if you're doing the things right, the only question they'll have is to look at some case studies or what's the price. For me, I don't think I've sat on a sales call in the last year and not had the question, what's the price, be the only thing at the end of doing this. Because really, to go back to that last step in the booking, this is about them, not you. So quit pitching with your wallet and start pitching when they're allowing you to. Okay? End of the day, that's really after the show when they show up to the call. And then depending on the package, we take this two ways. So we're going to use the package that I have here. So a limited package that I can only take a couple clients on. From there, just to make sure they're clear, I don't close them on this call. I could if I wanted to, but I don't because I like to make sure they're super, super clear, mainly because I'm trying to keep a client, not just close a deal. So I don't close on the call specifically. We call that a consulting close. They're basically already closed. Immediately after, within 24 to 48 hours, they have a document. This document outlines everything we talked on the call. This could be pre-written. You could write it after the call, whatever. But at the end of the day, this document is like 2 pages and it repitches them. But the difference is it goes over the guarantee. It goes over the price point. It justifies every single deliverable I'm going to do. They know everything about this project. The only thing I have my outreachers ask for follow-up after this, did you read it? And do you feel / think, and I'll get into that in a second, that a follow-up call or onboarding call is more appropriate? Guys, the best salespeople in the world have their clients do the job for them. They're kind of just a guide. They don't even do anything else. And that's what we try to prioritize is let's be a guide for our future clients, not a salesperson. So that being said, one thing that you can really just do, and I learned this from a guy who's running an insurance agency that did about 7 million per year, is the field / thing. It's called the Hardy Agency. They're out in Chicago. Real cool people. Now, what he basically pointed out was that men think, women feel, and it's something that is just biological. So if you're dealing with female prospects, ask them, do you feel, if you want to get the answer. If you're dealing with male prospects, do you think this is the right way to do something? Now, we apply that here because we still want to maintain that personalization that we had right there. Then from there, we either do the follow-up call, and all the follow-up calls ever really are just reviewing the document and going over any changes they want. Okay. Then from there, super easy. I'm going to actually, instead of doing an automated onboarding process, I'll show you how to do a manual one because I think it'll be better for this. Number 1, send agreement. So I have really bad news for some people who are watching this video. You can't just send a payment link before an agreement and call it a day because it was done on the same time. That's something I saw in high ticket, and we're kind of big on legal, right? We want to make sure we do things correctly, not just do things, right? When you send an agreement, you can outline in that agreement, hey, I want this to be paid in the first 24 hours after signature. Send the agreement, collect signature. Then, whether you do it over the DMs, text, whatever, send that payment link. And just tell them in that payment link message, and I'll add a little note here. I'll send you the onboarding link after payment. Boom. Whatever you want. Send that onboarding link after payment. When you send the onboarding link, this is another thing you can do is just make sure to build that link 48 hours out. Okay. Why would you want to put that link to where they can only book 48 hours out? You want to give it 2 days because in most places, there's a law that specifically states a 3-day right to rescission no matter what. So if you're in UK, US, wherever, Canada, there's a 3-day right to rescission law that you want to check, because if your LLC is registered in America specifically, no matter where you do business, you're tied to that law, which means if they pay, they sign, they do everything, they can still totally charge back and they could sue you. So the reason we do that is just once that commitment's there, not only does it make us look busy, but the 48 hours out onboarding link, it also allows you to run the onboarding call. We could get into that later. Run the onboarding call in a way that allows you to keep your money, because at that point now you're legally doing everything. Okay. Now, what am I going to tell people about legalities and whatnot? Do it right, but know you'll mess up. Okay. Don't let legal hold you back or serve as an excuse. Literally, don't let anything serve as an excuse. If you want to run a business, don't let anything be an excuse, right? There's no excuse that is going to make you $1 million. I don't know one excuse that's going to make you $1, actually. There's a million things you can come up with. Oh, I don't have it built out as well as Paulo and Ezekiel, so I may as well quit. Stop that. Try, right? At the end of the day, you've got to make sure that if you're doing all this stuff, this is our sales process. This doesn't mean it has to be your sales process, but it is our sales process. So when it comes down to it, we're going to be going through this entire process, making sure we book them, making sure they show the 24 to 48 hours, making sure they understand their quote, follow-up call if needed, going on the onboarding call, then running this quick onboarding process. Just because we want to make sure that our client sticks, okay? We've had a pretty great retention rate here at the Remote Growth Network, to the point where we've had a client in my last agency that actually didn't do very well on the package we'd had. And we took responsibility, right? We're like, hey, we're not going to collect any more payment. We'll just call it here. I still talk to him this day. You know why? Because at the end of the day, even though that project didn't go as planned, we as people did our job. And people are always going to go above business, above AI, above everything. So just remember that when you're building an onboarding process, this needs to be an experience that sticks, because the onboarding process is really going to dictate if you keep a client or not. If we didn't do this type of stuff, I tell you right now, we would not keep clients like at all. People would just leave. So when you're really putting this together, build something quality, build something that like people want to do over and over again, refer their friends, make it exciting, make it stick, do it right. And you'll keep a client, really, because 70% of why clients stay, and this is actual data, is because of the onboarding process, right? They know what they're going to get. They want to be treated like that red glove, red carpet feeling. So end of the day, this would be from book to onboarding process, Paulo, and I don't have much more time, but I can answer any final little questions and stuff.
Yeah,
And then
super
I'll leave this talk
valuable.
for everybody.
I think, yeah, I've also got to go in a minute, but just for the last minute that we've got, it'd be interesting to hear what is like the 20% that's gotten you 80% of the results. It could be very specific to client acquisition, or, just in general, something
The
small and
process of how
actionable.
I attack problems. I believe that the answer is out there. I don't care if people call me delusional or not. There are two things that are going to get me there. It's the stamina to keep trying and the thought that it's existing. Okay. That right there, actually, probably 100% of my success is that. I believe the answer's out there, and I will search for every piece of information and work till the sun goes down or comes back up the next day to make sure that that happens. And really, that's all business is. We're in the business of problem solving, no matter what business we're in. So you just really have to believe the answer's there. Do everything in your power to find it. Sometimes you're going to find it in somebody else. Sometimes you're going to find it online. Sometimes you're going to find it in yourself and you just have a random thought on a walk that's going to be the answer. But you have to believe that the answer's there. And really, that comes down to a killer mindset and making sure that you have the stamina to keep going. I would say most of the entrepreneurs that you see as successful had zero skills, no talent, but they had stamina and the belief that it could happen. And that's really where I personally feel most of my successes come is I just believe the answer to every problem is out there and I'm going to go find it. And then I'm going to
Yeah.
systemize it and call it a day.
Yep. I think there's a bunch of takeaways from this. I really enjoyed it. And where can people
I did
find you
too.
if they want more content from you?
Guys, if you want more, like the rest of the world is asking me, I will be putting together my brand over the next couple of months. But right now, go follow me on Facebook, and then you can wait like the rest of the world for when the first couple of videos for the channels come out. All the company channels, my personal channel, getting all the editors together. We like to move at our own speed and make sure that when we put it out, it's good as it can possibly be. So if you want to follow me for now, get a Facebook account like your grandma and go look up Ezekiel Buchtoris. You'll see me. I got the Remote Growth Network background, a little blue light bulb effect around my profile photo, and I'd be happy to chat with anybody that reaches out to me from the.
Yep. Yeah. 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 I'll put those links in the description, and been great talking to you. Yep. Bye bye.